30 with 20, the best news, the bossest music, and the coolest classic hits, and the best president that ever lived. Let's rock.
That sound, so profound, over heads of children, Lord, as they pass. Sounds like thunder, but there's no rain. This kind of thunder blows down doors and walls and things. Oh, somebody's crying for those dying, but no one knows how long it's gonna. Steel birds falling to the ground, not knowing what's below. When the end comes, tell me now where we're gonna go. Oh, people that smile, la 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 la, peace song, la 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 la. Tell me why can't we get along? Oh, people that smile, la 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 la, peace song, la 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 la. Tell me why can't we get along? It's not safe to fly. You might get hijacked to an unknown land. Desperate people seeking refuge from corruption, no, by means of subterfuge. Oh, sabotage, men at large, innocent people suffering by another's hand. Racial injustice, dividing men, every day, allowing a hate to grow. Tell me when it's gonna end. Oh, people that smile, la 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 la, peace song, la 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 la. Tell me why can't we get along? Oh, people that smile, la 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 la, peace song, la 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 la. Tell me why can't we get along? Sing it with me now.
Y'all hear me all right? Y'all hear me all right? Y'all hear me all right? I'm Peppermint, and I am so excited to be here for Mayor Mamdani's very first ever New York City Pride celebration as mayor.
Happy Pride, everyone! As a first step, my administration has made a $15 million investment in gender-affirming care over the next 2 years. And we will continue to use every tool at our disposal to ensure that trans and gender non-conforming New Yorkers can live with dignity, safety, and freedom they deserve.
At this time of anxiety and justified worry, I want to start with this. We are here for you. We are listening to you, and we will work with you to make sure your communities feel safe to gather, to worship, to meet, and to work without fear in the state of Connecticut.
places of worship are more than just a building. They are places where families gather, where children learn, and where communities serve their neighbors, and where people seek comfort, guidance, and connection. Each person in Connecticut should be able to enter a mosque, a church, a synagogue, a gurdwara, a temple, or a community center without fear.
Faith communities like my own spend millions of dollars each year simply to ensure that our congregants and our families, that our children can gather and celebrate safely.
Through these grant funds, we were able to significantly enhance our security infrastructure by upgrading our camera surveillance system, improving door access controls, and implementing other critical safety measures. These
standing together with everyone here, the freedom of this country to worship as we see fit, safety and security will be maintained. Thank you.
That we are dealing with the safety, security for our people in all different backgrounds, but also the faith communities. And I cannot thank Governor Lamont enough for his support from day one.
You come after one of us, you come after our house of worship, you come after any group because of how they believe or how they practice their faith. You're coming after all of us. And we're looking out for each other, and we're standing up for each other. And this bill, this grant, this security grant, is one more step of saying we believe in you and believe that you belong here in the state of Connecticut. God bless you all.
Well, we do have some big economic news for New Haven. The consumer goods giant Unilever is about to create a global innovation center right there in the Elm City.
And Fox 61's Celine Arif shows us the plans and what's expected to take place over the next few years.
The big announcement comes with some big goals. Unilever says 300 people will work at the new center to put even more of their products in households across America. Unilever is the maker of some of the brands many of us use today, including Axe body spray and deodorant, Dove soap, Vaseline, to Hellmann's mayo. The London-based company wants to create more brands, so they're going to hire 300 scientists, engineers, and researchers to help pioneer them right here in New Haven. The company says it chose New Haven specifically for the local leaders who encourage the drive of innovation. Representative Rosa Dolores says this is one of its biggest investments in the city in 40 years.
This community as an intersection with the unbelievable assets of biomedicine, healthcare, education, etc. So it is the perfect place for you to be.
The center is slated to open by spring 2029. In New Haven, Celine Arif, Fox 61.
Well, hi, my good Kemasabis. It's Tony D'Angelo. It is June 11th, 2026, 3 p.m. Eastern. Ada Domini in the year of our Lord. So happy to have you here for another edition of 30 with Tony. So happy to all the folks that are watching on YouTube and on X and on Talk Red Media. We're making friends there in leaps and bounds as we go through every single day. Welcome. I am so grateful. I am so thankful that you believe this broadcast is something that is worthy of your time and your attention. As you know, they used to tell us years ago, a lot of people would say on the radio or on television, you had a lot of choices to go through, including all the 7 television channels I grew up with, but you chose to spend the time with us. That's how I feel. And not only that, but your choices now are infinitely multiplied, and still you are here. So welcome. Thanks to our music contributors, thanks to our news contributors, thanks to everybody that has made this a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And I had to say it, it's not a bad little show. So welcome. Today's show is going to be entitled Hope and Change. You've got to be kidding me. And I don't know, I got up today and I just had a horrible, sarcastic, and quasi-defeatist streak. Maybe defeatist isn't the right word, but given the month of really May and June in the annals of my life and what's been going on in my home state, which is Connecticut, and some of the byplay that we talked about last week, that we shared on the Tuesday Lee Elsey show, and the last week's show on a state representative candidate in Connecticut, Jaden McCormick, I began to get very cynical about some of the happenings that I have been seeing, because every election cycle, and I probably have been through more than most, given age, stage, and position in life. You could decide what the position is. I've been trying to figure it out for years. And it's always the same thing. We've got change. We're going to change things. We're going to make things different. We are going to listen to you and act upon those things that you, or we the people, or shall we say citizens, or whatever your particular term is going to do. And right now, I'm just a head shaking mess. Maybe I'm not a mess, or maybe I am a mess, but basically maybe I'll just start and you'll see what I mean, and I was off about several things earlier, I should say, that I've taken later, but I want to talk today about hope and change. You've got to be kidding me. And I'm going to start over here. You watched 3 videos on the way in. Actually, let me start with that. You watched 3 videos on the way in. You watched the mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, spending all kinds of money for a pride celebration in New York City, taxpayer dollars. You watched a video of economic development. What is economic development in Connecticut? It was done by one of the local networks. And Unilever is having a major move to New Haven, Connecticut. And also, you saw a video about the, shall we say, the protection of the houses of worship, courtesy of your local state. These are the 3 main subjects we're going to talk about today. And basically, it comes down to hope and change. You've got to be kidding me. So let's start over here if we can. I'm going to go to here. And I'm going to go to here. Article in our friends publishing this great newspaper. If you are watching on Talk Red Media, you should take a moment and go through the offerings that are in the Connecticut Sentinel. It really is a fine work. These people are working their brains out to tell you the truth as to what's happening in the state of Connecticut. Now, many great contributors. Bob Swick, who all of you are familiar with, is a weekly contributor. He's got a great one coming out on Saturday. I mean, if people are upset now, they're going to be even more upset. Believe me, I got kind of a sneak preview of it. And my first question, actually, I'm going to end in a postscript. So what? Or possibly begin in a postscript. The Jaden McCormick controversy, I think, has controversied itself out. The positions are clear. The information is available. The direction of things has been established. And frankly, there has not been a lot of, shall we say, unpredictable movement by the legitimate political parties and the legitimate media. They did as they were expected to do, which is, i.e., preserve the status quo at all costs and do so in such a manner where we will spare no expense whatsoever, and no effort whatsoever to make sure that Jaden McCormick is not the Republican candidate for the 50th district of the State House in Connecticut, a district that I happen to be broadcasting to you from. So last Tuesday I went on the Lee LC show and I told everybody in no uncertain terms how I feel about that right across the board. And it's really a situation where it's so sad. There are no winners, but in looking at the losses and looking at the gaping holes, it's one of those situations where, say you got an old car or an old roof in your house and you're saying, it ain't that bad. I'll get along with it. But then when you have that really bad storm or that really hot day or something and something breaks in the car, and honestly, Maybe you're glad because you broke down in front of your house as opposed to somewhere on the freeway or something like that. You were really, with the Jaden McCormick controversy, you really saw how bad and how, what is the right word? How stiff-necked and close-minded people were to discussions. You also saw people who, when given information to correct what they needed to do, went out and did something dumber. It was just a bad show all around in that regard. But again, I'm grateful I saw what took place. I didn't like to see it. I don't think anybody liked to see it personally. But what we found out was, it was amazing to me that people who on a daily basis in the state would just as soon wish me dead, would discredit me, would do whatever they could to have me not criticize them. And these are people in the legitimate political parties. All of a sudden were, how can I put it? We're so concerned about my welfare, and that they were telling me about my moral soul and how dare I would ever want to support a candidate like Jaden McCormick. Maybe I called him Jason before. That would be an error if I did. And it was like, I'm not telling you if I support Jaden. I'm not telling you if I don't support Jaden. What I do support, because I am a participant and member of, is a, shall we say, a traditional male lifestyle. You will never see me on this broadcast with a wig and a dress, unless it's some sort of a gag. That doesn't fascinate me in the least. And when traditional values and all this mess were brought about, the Republicans, which is the, our state Republicans, really, I think it's Republicans as a whole, sadly. I mean, I don't want to see Republicans lose. I want to see them win. But when they tore off after this kid, they completely lost the core of any moral argument whatsoever. Like, for example, we talked about on the Lee Elsey show about the, what was it, Big Dildo Festival in Stamford. It made libs of TikTok. These children are being exposed to partially dressed, out-of-shape males and a big dildo festival. And libs of TikTok correctly said whoever arranged this should be arrested. Republicans did not comment about it nor come out about it, which I don't know if that's because if they do so, since they vilified Jaden McCormick, that they would be seen as sympathizers, or that's just the way they feel. It's okay by them. We don't know, but that's the whole thing. We completely lose our, shall we say, our sane and moral compass when we focus on one person as opposed to the issue. But I don't want to talk about that as much as I want to talk about this. This is the city of Norwalk, Connecticut, which is one of Connecticut's larger cities. With, like most cities in Connecticut, it has a checkered past. And they are doing exactly what Mayor Zoran Mondani is doing in New York. Now, my question is, let's read down this a little bit. It's Pride Month. Now ask yourself something. Why do we need a Pride Month? We have a Veterans Day. We have a Memorial Day to honor our war dead. We have Christmas Day. We have Easter Sunday. We have Election Day. Now, of course, Election Day, if you're in certain Demo-commie states, turns out to be election month. But basically, we need to have Pride Month. How did Pride Month come about, basically? Well, the roots of it were in the Stonewall riots in 1970 in New York City, and people wanting to live their life as gay people. And I'm perfectly okay with that. That doesn't trouble me in the least. If you want to deem that as sin, You want to deem every sin as sin because that is the way the New Testament is written. It does not differentiate between sins. And if people want to live their life behind a closed door and they're adults and children aren't being endangered any way they want, fine by me. Personally, I would rather have I'd rather have gay neighbors that were perfectly good citizens and lived quietly, as opposed to people who were yelling praise the Lord at 3 o'clock in the morning and waking me up out of a dead sleep. You know, it's being a neighbor. It's not your moral soul. But that being as it is, we come down to how do we end up with a Pride Month? Why does Pride get elevated above everything else? Well, you got to remember, so much of this stuff, just about all of it, is not organic, is not political, it's not causative, it is manufactured. It is manufactured at you by the corporations, by the sports teams, by the automobile dealers, by the entertainment venues. It is manufactured at you so that when these people come out and say, we are inclusive to people who celebrate Pride Month, they get more of a bang for the buck. They get customers, they get more attendance, they get more purchasing and that sort of thing. Now, the very clever and albeit dastardly consulting companies, the McKinseys and the Boston Consultings, took really what was an organic protest and manufactured it into corporate profits and greed. And, you know, you must do this. Now, of course, what they do is that these, believe me, because politicians are not nearly as bright as you might think they are. And that includes elected office holders. As I have a very good friend in New Jersey who grew up in Union City. Union City kind of makes Bridgeport look like Candyland in many respects. Old line Uniontown, crooked mob guys, you name it. And he is a Democrat, liberal, Jewish man. And he says, regardless of how you feel, Tony, one day he was telling me, is they have 2 goals in politics. Number 1, get elected, and number 2, get reelected. That's basically all it is, and whatever it takes to do that. And that goes right across however you look at it. But basically, what they did was, in their master marketing genius plan, they said, well, how do we do this? Well, we've got to get into the hearts and minds and send lobbyists to the state legislatures and tell them that these are things we want you to give attention to vote on, because these are things that are really, you know, shall we say, important to the public. Now, of course, while they're doing it, other people are getting ready to cash in. Like, for example, the black hair bill. We talked about that on the Lee Elsey show. We talked about that here. I mean, you know, I got people very upset with me because I was able to prove the chain of command where black women's hair products were not selling. So that what happened was the McKinseys went to the manufacturers and said, this is what you have to do. This is the operative model. You've got to take your lobbyists to the state legislatures and make them be champions of the fact that we need hair equity. So now in Connecticut, we've got hair equity. Now, my barbershop that I went to yesterday, I don't think I've ever seen a black woman, young lady there. They wouldn't go there. It wouldn't be a place for them. I mean, the barbershop I go to, which is a great barbershop, is basically sort of a nouveau version of the He-Man Women Haters Club. I love going there. Believe me, because I'm not around a lot of men, you know, where there's only men. And that's that to me, and oftentimes is refreshing, because I too can, you know, kind of let down my filter. I like doing that. Your barber knows more about you than your priest. Think about it, guys. But be that as it may, maybe even your wife. You're supposed to talk to your wife. You're supposed to love your wife. I told you that. But anyway, so basically, This is how it comes down. So we have Pride Month, and it's all quote unquote, where it's organic and we've got to do all these things and we've got to include all these people. It is engendered by the corporations, and all the corporations want to do is sell product. They would sell anything to anyone if it meant increasing profits. It's the money, honey. It's nothing else. So anyway, as you're spending tax dollars in New York City, you're spending tax dollars in Connecticut. The Norwalk Public Schools, inter alia, among others, proclaim June as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer Pride Month. And they're promised to have a safe, respectful, and inclusive learning environment. And we're talking about the struggles of LGBTQ people to achieve equity and justice. I'm not making fun of that. But basically, they're participating in the Trial Community Center Pride in the Park, where the transgenders will come out and dance and act, and they will join the city. The fact is, however you come down on this, number one, it is financially and corporately generated. And number two, it is the use of your tax dollars for quote unquote something that you may not agree with. And people talk about affordability. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. People talk about, I can't afford to live here. My property taxes, my this, my that, my utilities. And it's awful and it's terrible. And nobody defends the poor homeowner in Connecticut. But basically, when it comes down to quote unquote something like Pride Month, we cannot mention that we are opposed to such an effort, be it on moral or abuse with children or legal or fiscal grounds, without being told that we are some sort of a racist nincompoop bastard, for lack of a better term. It was offensive to me to see Republicans come into my district to campaign for a gentleman who is now on the ballot in the primary to run against Jaden McCormick, because they were imposing their morality upon me. In other words, when they assaulted Jaden McCormick, you could say it's for good reason, bad reason, other reasons, or Jaden was 100% right, 80% right, whatever the thing may be. When they assaulted him, they did not come out and make the statement that we value the family. We value the nuclear family. We value people's rights to believe in God. We believe in all people. We have pride in all people. By definition, they supported Pride Month. And you know something? That's very resentful to me, because I don't support Pride Month. I support the right of any person to live the way they want to live, but I do not support Pride Month. So if you are a Republican, why should I support you? Where by definition, you cannot separate the wheat from the chaff. You cannot separate the baby from the bathwater. You threw everything out and started crusading and pontificating about, we believe in free speech. We believe in individual freedoms. We believe in the right of people to express themselves. And then what you did is you assaulted this kid who basically, yes, didn't have it right or didn't have it entirely right, but you assaulted him, completely not listening to what he was saying in its entirety. Now, look at it this way. We can't separate, in many cases, the messenger from the message. Read your Bible. Balaam had a donkey. Okay? It doesn't matter where the right answer comes from, but pray for the right answer. And it is offensive to me as a taxpayer that I have to spend my money to support my state so that they can do Pride Month. That's basically, I am not opposed to what people want to do as far as within themselves. I am horribly and vehemently opposed to drag shows in front of, almost infant children. So I don't like that. It's the thing of when Republicans and people come to me and say, I promise you hope, I promise you change. And I have to say, you've got to be kidding me, because Where is the veneration of my values? And as I said on the Lee Elsey show on Tuesday, values of 40% of this state that are not in line, that do not support this. Ask any mother who's struggling to feed her family as a single mom, working, trying to put things together. Oh, would you give up 10% of your income to support Pride Month? I mean, basically, I hope she doesn't have a sharp object that she doesn't throw at you. That's basically the whole thing. You completely lose the argument when you do dumb things like that. And not only that, but you offend people, and you offend people like me when you come into our districts and our towns and tell us what we must do in order to save our souls. If I find out about that again ever happening, believe me, the people who are coming here doing it will not be treated with the kindness and respect that they were treated with when they came. That's all I'm going to say. I don't advocate violence. I don't advocate, as I say, you do not put your hands on an elected official, regardless of what you may be thinking. That's basically it. But don't come here and pontificate your values when your values are nebulous and unclear. And then when it comes down to, quote unquote, what is the right answer, you want to shame us away from it. That is, I mean, believe me, National Republican Party's had some buttes, but Connecticut Republican Party, time and time again, has created public relations disasters that are beyond belief. And this is really one of them. This is basically not only, going back to the convention, not only going back to Aaron Stewart, they want to talk about morality, but they were getting ready to run someone out there as, quote unquote, the solution to everything that basically is an alleged larcenist. And apparently that all gets worse as you come down. I mean, basically, what is true north? As I said to Lee Elsey, okay, let's move on. Your state loves you. Your state loves you so much that they want to protect you in your house of worship. Why do they want to protect you in your house of worship? Because you might be injured or wounded in your house of worship. So we're going to get a bunch of, shall we say, politically prominent ministers. Now, let me do this. I hope I can do this right, because I'm working here with kind of two applications. And there we go. Okay, I'm hopefully you're seeing it. This gentleman here, I believe, is the commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, used to be the state police. This is an archbishop in Hartford. I'm not really sure what his denomination is. Most of you on this broadcast are familiar with State Representative or State Senator and Dr. Saad Anwar, a man who roots for Donald Trump's death daily, a man who wants to put drug tents on city streets, a man that basically has shown no respect whatsoever to, shall we say, those of Christian belief or traditional belief. He did behave a little better in the homeschooling debates, but basically all of these people are there praising, instead of praising God, instead of talking about the blessings of God, praise God for whom all blessings flow. Praise Father, Son, and all creatures below. No, they're praising Governor Ned Lamont. Now, when you go back to here, basically, $5 million of your state dollars, tax dollars, are being made available to these churches who, quote unquote, feel threatened. Now, let me just say this, okay? People have gone into churches to do bad things. Up until recently, it's always been the responsibility of the church itself to protect itself, because the church people, be you a Catholic, be you a Jew, a Protestant, a Muslim, you didn't want the government in your building. As a matter of fact, you wanted the government out of your building because You didn't want the government to dictate to you what you could say, who you could say it to, what your doctrine was going to be. I mean, isn't it a whole lot easier for government to say that your doctrine, and believe me, this day is coming if you don't take heed and stop it now. I was chatting with people earlier, and we were talking about the current state of the United States of America. I said, look, President Donald Trump, a man whom I respect, a man who has a vision for this country, somehow needs to move more quickly on his agenda. And I know it's difficult because there's a lot of bad people preventing that, regardless of how you may feel about him. But basically, if he doesn't, you're going to be looking at houses in the United States Congress that are against him, that will stop everything, that will impeach him daily, if not, minute by minute. And basically what happens is that if there's enough of them and not enough of you, if you are a person of, shall we say, conservative, normal, what we would call normal Christian beliefs, they will consider your doctrine and your Holy Bible to be hate speech. And if they're handing you money to do that, are you going to get up and say, no, my Bible is not hate speech? They don't want to listen to that. They have no regard whatsoever of whatever you believe. But what they want to do is hand you money. Actually, I don't want to go there just yet. They want to hand you money and tell you that you have a security problem in your church, and you need to take this money so you can worship freely. Now, if you don't see, put it this way, any church I ever went to where there was the least bit of concern about that, you'd get maybe anywhere between 3 or 5 of your ugliest guys and stick them on the back row and have them look from side to side. I played that role from time to time. The church didn't need no interference from the government. But unfortunately, these days, the church in many cases has been hoarded out by the government. And there is no better way to get your message out there if you have a corrupted demo-commie message than to get a bunch of characters in religious outfits to talk about the wonders of the state and the wonders of the government. And when you come down to that, basically, they bought you. They have bought your heart. They have bought your message. They have bought your belief system by convincing you that you need them to protect you. They cannot even protect themselves, basically. But this is what they've done. And again, hope and change, don't make me laugh. $5 million state funding, talk about the buying of the vote, and we go on. Now, you would think that there would be Republicans saying, this is a bad message. This is a bad precedent. Government should not be involved in religion. We can talk about the separation of church and state, and people can go on for days about that. But basically, what is your proof text? My proof text is the Bible. Somebody walked up to the Savior, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, with a penny and the head of Caesar and said, show me whose head is on the penny. And what Jesus said to the guy was, look, let government do government things. I'm about my Father's business. It's not, I'm not supposed to be messing around with politics. I don't have that scripture exactly right. But basically that is, quote unquote, that has been the proof standard. But now you have people who want to, and when they're redefining sex and they want to call mothers birthing people and all this other stuff, all this crap is pure Marxist, basically. It is pure lies from the pit of hell. And what they do is they're saying, all right, if that's what you feel, we are going to, quote unquote, be your protector. If you look at those communist goals that were read into the United States Congress, I believe it was 30 of them or more in 1960, a capturing of religious houses of worship is a prime focus and prime agenda action item of Marxists and commies. So basically, It's you can go to the state and say, "Oh, state, protect me." Well, do you believe in God? Or, yeah, believe in God. Do you believe He's all knowing? And do you believe He's all providing? Yeah. Do you believe God will protect you from harm? Yeah. So, excuse my, shall we say, scriptural English. Why the hell are you taking money from the state to protect you? You obviously don't believe that. You've obviously sold out your belief system for, quote unquote, the new religious king, Governor Ned Lamont the Unaccountable. And Republicans don't say a word, basically. Not all, wait a minute, I'm wrong. Here's Senator Jeff Gordon of Woodstock. He's on public safety. We've seen hate crimes and violent insiders. I continue to be a strong advocate, and he is very much in favor of this. We must continue to raise public awareness. So Republicans want to come on the national level and the state level, offering hope and change. This guy's over there saying, is effectively worshiping Ned Lamont instead of whatever God he worships, basically. I mean, because if you don't believe in the God that you're worshiping, why are you running to the state for money? Somebody's got to help me with this, basically. We will, the Commissioner of Public Safety, our goal is to prevent the next act of hate, the next criminal threat, and the next act of targeted violence. When Commissioner Higgins does hate defined, or the definition of hate is, I confess Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. We looked last week at Paul Krugman talking about the demagnification of America, a purging of all remnants of hate. That's what they want to do with MAGA and Trump, basically. And this is America, and this is a free country, but we have Republicans who basically are going right along with this Kool-Aid. And we've got other governor candidates. I mean, rumor has it we have a Republican candidate and we have a lefty liberal loopy candidate. None of them are saying anything about this. Why? How do you guys feel about this? I mean, is this okay? I mean, they just bought a bunch of votes and false premises. Does that matter to you? Maybe it doesn't. Okay. You think that's bad? It gets worse. We see this, and you saw this video on the way in. Unilever. I had a longtime client at Unilever before he passed on. And he was the head, he was very high up in the branding and the packaging of consumer items and things like that. It was very interesting. Their plant has been in Trumbull, Connecticut for years and years and years. However, they haven't been doing hot, basically. There's a lot of competition in that genre. As things become, shall we say, more economically challenging, people buy off-brand stuff. There are other people who are coming, like if I turn on my my Roku, there's some very interesting personal care products and things like that. Several of them which I've used. I've got to keep my youthful figure. And the Dream On, Tony. And basically, there's a lot of, shall we say, heat in this particular space. If you look at the stock performance of Unilever, hasn't really done that well. So what do? Well, you have Connecticut-style economic development. You take a vacant building in New Haven, or a vacant area, 2 Church Street, which is, I think it is owned by the state of Connecticut, and the 300 employees who were already in Trumbull, basically. There's no job growth here whatsoever. They're moving the plot to New Haven. And they are going ahead and talking about how wonderful things are. The property is foreclosed. It's owned by the state. The DOT is the co-owner. And they talk about they will operate out of 2 floors, and then they will be near Quantum CT. Now, we've talked about Quantum CT in the past, the technological arm of the state of Connecticut, taking $121 million to effectively run science projects to develop quantum computing with the universities. And as it sits, they've got no private partners. They've got no capital flowing in these things. They do beautiful posts on LinkedIn and, beautiful pictures of people holding up things. And isn't this great? And what we're doing and all this other kind of stuff. Where is the job retention? Where is the job that, who cares? Who cares? We've got Quantum CT. So basically what you got here is you've got effectively a sucker play where, let me give you some idea here as to the money. I had actually had this written out for the Lee Elsey show on Tuesday. And our should be abolished Department of Economic and Community Development is going ahead and saying, this is great. This is wonderful. Things are really moving. Now, the dollars going into this, $270 million of your tax money is going to a global innovation center, which is effectively what this is. There is no net job creation. People will go to Florida and move their corporations and go to Texas and move their corporations because they don't want to pay state income tax. They're not looking for subsidies. They're looking to get to a place where they're not going to be burdened with the cost of an inept, stupid, and redundant government. That's basically it. I mean, you want to vote for a Democrat, vote for a Democrat. You want to vote for a Republican? I mean, basically, is that, shall we say, Republican, is that Democrat white? I mean, sure looks like it. They got $50.5 million in grants. Now, this is all part of a, hang on, just want to get this exactly right. A fund of money which is lent to Unilever, and it is part of the $50.5 million information cluster. In other words, it's the same garbage in the State Department of Economic and Community Development. 2% sweetheart loans that are forgivable. All you have to do is take their money, pay people for jobs, and when you're done, you can walk away. It doesn't cost you anything. And we move on, and basically it's all part of a Fox economic development mess. And you throw Yale in, of course, Yale is sitting there. I mean, they're the 500-pound gorilla. They'll take whatever bananas you throw them. And they will take this money and Unilever, because all you have to do what Sikorsky did. You have to do what Pratt and Whitney did, and they're going to do it again. Say, hey, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to go do something else. Well, we got to give you money in order for you to stay. And they will all sit there and say, well, this is quote unquote jobs retention. Now, jobs retention is great. Jobs retention where you're coming to me for my money and asking me to pay for a winner, and you've effectively deemed me as a loser. I am not a fan of that, nor should I be. And not only that, you would think, I didn't, shame on me. I meant to post this. And I'll tell you about it. There is a post on Twitter this morning I was reading. It's the typical thing the state Republicans do, state Republican Senate, where they talk about, Connecticut is 42nd in business development, or more like 49th, but depending on what metric you look at. And they point the finger at the Democrats, and they have pictures of Fazio and Sampson and Summers and Gordon and all these people that quote unquote have a better idea. And my question to each of them is, look at this mess. This is nothing but handing away tax dollars to subsidize a corporation that basically is kind of like in the, shall we say, the last stages, in my estimation, of their product development. And where we're lending 2% money as a huge subsidy to quote unquote make them develop, or shall we say, make them develop new products. And what they're really doing is sucking off the state mammary gland. Is that your idea of economic development, Republican senators? Is it? Well, if that's the case, you're no better than Ned Lamont and Justin Ellicker. It's not. Well, what is your creative idea? And if you believe you have a creative idea, why aren't you out there telling us what that creative idea is? Now, there ain't no, how can I put it? There ain't no shortage of good ideas to put Connecticut in the right ballpark, in the right place. The problem is the Republicans nationally and locally are like the Pharisees. They are stiff-necked. They don't listen to anything but the own music that they play. So this is, this is a big issue where the state-run news media will give you these nice videos, and the Hartford Business Journal will tell you the quote-unquote, isn't this a great thing, and everybody's coming, and this is great. We don't get down to the nitty-gritty of why Connecticut doesn't work, how it doesn't work, and where they talk about hope and change in the Republican sense. You've got to be kidding me. Who basically would pass up a $10 million, 2% forgivable loan and all of this glad handing to get into quote unquote New Haven and make this innovation cluster, which is going to attract all these people? So you say, and there is no net job growth. There's no driver. There's no attraction here. You don't see somebody coming in from out of state saying, hey, that's a happening thing. I'm going to be there and I'm going to bring my synergies into that. No, because you don't know how to develop an economy. I've been telling you that for years. It is not the type of economy that you can develop as other people do, but you've got to make it very, very, very attractive for people to come. And you've got to make it attractive for people to come, to stay, and to work on all sizes. It's basically, don't give me the same crud. Don't tell me what to accept. And you throw crap like this out here, and we're supposed to actually, sit there and nod our heads and say, gee, isn't that great? And, it's your silence is awful, basically. It's something like this, because how dare you insult a Connecticut administrative agency, much like our should be abolished Department of Economic and Community Development, or maybe you don't have an original idea. Or maybe when you get there and when you get in power, you're going to continue to do the same thing, but do it a little bit differently. And basically, you talk about hope and change. You've got to be kidding me. Now, let me review. I am through with the, shall we say, the psychodrama of the whole belief issue of the Jaden McCormick controversy. I'm looking at money right now. I don't want my tax money going for a Pride Month. I don't want my tax money being used against me and my belief system because it does not align with that of the legitimate political parties. I don't want that. I don't want that. And as a free moral agent, I should be able to say it, and I'm saying it. Now, if you believe in God, this offends you. This should offend you. Having your government protect your church after a while is kind of like having your friendly local wolf guard your chickens. They don't care about you. They don't care about God. They don't care about your belief. They don't care about, they cared so much about your belief. Why don't they give you a religious exemption for your kids, for vaccines, if you don't want your kid vaccinated? If they cared so much about you and your beliefs, why do they have to stick their ugly face in your homeschooling? But yet, all of these people who are running saying, I'm going to champion that for you. I'm going to champion for your kids. I'm going to champion vaccine rights, ain't saying a bleeping word about this. And there's something else here with this, and I don't want to blow through that. There's a lot of stuff that you read on Twitter and or X or on some of the social media sites. And it's, I've read a couple today, some guy from Texas with, multi thousands of followers. And he's talking about, well, He's wants the feds to come in and investigate Ned Lamont because by doing this program, cough, spit, barf, throw up on the floor, he is funding terrorist organizations who are, mosques and things like that. Now, there's one critical aspect with all of that. The government is not looking at things in the way somebody looks like it on Twitter. Somebody looking at it on Twitter thinks it's a microwave pouch that they're going to eat for lunch. The government will only prosecute what they believe they have the evidence and the testimony to prosecute. They're not going to prosecute on speculation. Now, these people that are running this stuff, and it's like one guy gets it, another guy's got and they've all got huge amounts of followers. And basically, it's like, I don't think that's wrong. I don't think the statement is wrong. But there is a lot wrong with taking a statement and making it a fact just because you're saying it, or there is a causal or circumstantial issue. And all I got to tell you is tread warily, people. If you see something like that, report it, basically. But provide the facts of your reporting. Because if you really want the government to come in and clean somebody's clock, you've got to give them cold, hard facts. I do cases for a living. And believe me, for me to say the moon is a balloon carried by a goon ain't going to cut it. Cuts it great on Twitter. I mean, how many followers does Alex Jones have? Basically, where's the next flying saucer that Alex Jones is going to jump in? That's basically what it is. So tread warily, please. I am curious, though, because the people here that are in this picture, a number of them, I have very suspect leanings towards. I'll leave it that way. Okay. When Connecticut says they've got all this wonder of economic development, where's the money, honey? Where's the money? Dan O'Keefe, in your failed organization that should be abolished, you're sitting there hat in hand because you want the federal grant that Donald Trump is going to hand out for quote unquote quantum computing. And basically he's handing it to corporations. You know why? The man's got a brain. He's not going to hand it to people who are going to waste it and throw it on the ground and not develop anything and not be, quote unquote, an economic engine to attract others. So whenever Connecticut comes out with economic development, basically, think hard, think very hard. And also observe Republicans who are very much like the Republicans who think that getting money to protect your mosque, your synagogue, or your church is a good idea, will, quote unquote, want to do the same thing and throw money and not develop anything and not build anything. And that's basically where we're at. So I'm going to stop the share. One disappointing thing, because we ended up in the whole Jaden McCormick thing, we are behind on our, shall I say, our lessons. People have asked me for the undue medical debt, really, which is a malign scam. But yet to do that, we've done it in the past, but we're going to have to do it again. And for me to do that, I've got to do visuals and I've got to do things in such a way where you can actually see what's happening. It's almost, shall I say, somewhat self-defeating because Republicans don't pick up on this stuff, basically. But we're going to show you. So maybe you could show them. It won't always be me doing it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that to the Tuesday Lee Elsey show of this upcoming week. And since I'm not allowed to show visuals on the radio because we have listeners and not viewers, I will merge in the videos and the graphics to that recorded segment, and then you'll get to see what's happening. So after that, I think we'll be on curriculum. I approach this very much as if I were, as I am a practitioner, but as if I were a professor. I don't, believe me, nobody would probably want me as a professor, but I look at it in terms of what you need to know and when you need to do it. And it's not about me, quote unquote, glorifying myself. It's about you being a better person and me being a better person because we have the information in order to do it, which our government's not giving us, the is not giving us. And in many cases, those who come to you and say they are sincere are oftentimes sincerely wrong. I don't want to be sincerely wrong. I want to be sincerely right. My name is Tony D'Angelo, and this is 30 with Tony. Thank you for watching on X, on YouTube, and on Talk Red Media, wherever you happen to be. We'll be coming back with the rest of the show. Now, let me tell you, I got a great movie for you, because when you wander through this life, do you ever feel...
I beheld your sweet face, and in my lonely room, a memory of your embrace, Gloria, my glory. Isn't it funny how time can change? All the things you once believed. Oh, but time won't change the way I feel. 'Cause in my mind, it's still you and me. You and me.
HMO Sobbies. It's the Trickster. It's time for a 30 with Tony classic movie review. And here's Tony.
Well, thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us. Did you ever feel that you were the only man or woman in the world and that everybody else was a crazed maniac? They weren't understanding you, they weren't getting you, and just about all of them wanted to kill you because you were different than they were. Did you ever feel that you have lost such control of the world that you are fighting for your very being every single day? Now, if you are a watcher of 30 with Tony, I know you feel that way. And today's movie I will share with you has a number of present day attributions, or shall we say references, and it was filmed 55 years ago. Now, I went to see this movie, actually. I used to have this habit back in the days of the daily newspaper when it would come in. Ours was the Stamford Advocate, and the movie would come, or shall I say the movie would come, the newspaper would come. I'd sit on the floor. I'd read from the front of the paper to the back of the paper. And when I got to the back of the paper were all the panel ads for the movies. There's a whole story about how those ads were done, way back when. Maybe someday we'll share it. But that all as it is, I saw a movie was playing at the Ridgeway Theater, which was in walking distance to where I was, but I wasn't much shall I say, warming up to walking at night. It was safe back then, but still it was walking at night. So I asked my father if he would call up somebody at the Ridgeway Theater. My father, worked in the theaters in town, had a long career in backstage and entertainment and Broadway and things like that, as his brothers did, as several of my cousins did. And I said, hey, Dad, can you call somebody at the Ridgeway and get Lori and me in for to watch The Omega Man, having no idea what it was about. So he did it. And Lori's a lovely, lovely girl. She was a very prim and proper lady. And what happened, I have several stories like this with Lori. I end up sitting at this movie where it is one man fighting with every fiber in his being to kill albino mutant nocturnal ninjas. And I was like, how'd I end up here? But I'm glad I ended up there because it really is a great movie with a lot of present day application. So let me show it to you. First, I'll show you the review. The movie, The Omega Man, was made in 1971. It is a post-apocalyptic action film. I think you get the idea. That is directed by Boris Sagal and starring the great Charlton Heston. This is a guy who was how can I put it? People talk about John Wayne. Charlton Heston is right up there among them. He was Ben-Hur. He was the captain in Skyjack. There are so many movies that he did, and he always played the very strong and very efficient and very independent male character. Charlton Heston, as a man, lived an exemplary life. He was married to the same woman for close to 50 years, raised his family in Hollywood or Beverly Hills or wherever he happened to live, which is not an easy thing to do, but with all the temptations and the money and things like that. But he did it, and he was a fine actor and a fine man. Also the president of the National Rifle Association for a long period of time. Those of you who are Second Amendment champions will recall Charlton Heston addressing the conventions holding the gun over his head. You can't say anything bad whatsoever about Charlton Heston. He was just a marvel of strength and masculinity, toxic masculinity, right? Things that like stop already, But anyway, he was a master and a marvel of masculinity. Now, this movie here is really cool. It was shot in the early 70s, but it's based on a novel, The Last Man on Earth, starring Vincent Price, and it's based on a future happening that happens in 1975. There is a Sino-Soviet border conflict, which escalates into full-scale war, and which biological warfare, gee, what's that? Destroys most of the human race. U.S. Army Colonel Robert Neville, the Charlton Heston character, is a scientist based in Los Angeles, California, who tests the efficacy of various vaccines. Doesn't that sound familiar? As he begins to succumb to the plague, he desperately injects himself with an experimental vaccine which renders him immune. Now, we come down to August 1977. He believes he's the only immune survivor of the plague. He spends his days patrolling Los Angeles, which is deserted. Gee, there's so many futuristic things in this movie. Hunting and killing members of the family, a cult of plague victims who survived but were rendered homicidal, nocturnal, albino mutants. Boy, I might say that in some of the courses of my days about some people. I may even say worse. Through flashbacks, Neville remembers how martial law was imposed. Gee, we don't know anything about that. And a majority of people who succumbed to the plague were killed instantly. Now, at night, he lives in a fortified apartment building equipped with an arsenal of weaponry. He's a prisoner in his own home. We don't know anything about that either, right? The family's attempts to extract Neville from his residence have failed, due in part to their insistence on using archaic weaponry and siege warfare. When not hunting Neville, the family destroys any remnant of science, blaming technology for the war, hence the reluctance to attempt more modern means to kill Neville. This thing is a lot heavier than I probably anticipated. It is available for free on the Internet Archive. It's an amazing thing. I don't want to tell you anything more, but basically it is this whole thing, or the whole, shall we say, purpose of the drama is one man against the world when the world has gone entirely nuts and you're the only sane one and they are calling you obsolete and wrong and twisted. Meanwhile, they're so twisted and inept and violent and wretched, they're too busy killing each other to some days even wonder about you. I'm going to show you the trailer. I'm not going to get into anything more than that because this is such a classic. I don't want to destroy any of it for you. The film, The Omega Man, released in 1971. Here's the movie poster. It's The Last Man Alive is Not Alone. It gives us some hope. It is based on the novel I Am Legend, 1954 by Richard Matheson. It stars Charlton Heston, Anthony Zerbe, a longtime American character actor. I believe he's still active, believe it or not. And Rosalind Cash. There's a neat twist in this movie involving an interracial romance. Back when interracial romances were frowned upon. That's all I'm going to tell you. You have to see it. You have to actually put yourself there. What does people say to me? What's in it, Tony? Well, watch the movie because I don't want you to be bereft of the fun and watching the drama build. It was released August 1st, 1971. I believe I saw it that month. It runs only 98 minutes, and it is just such an incredible movie. And if you've been through COVID-19, if you've been through political stupidity, if you've been through persecution, if you've been to the world telling you that you're all wrong and you know that you're the one that's all right, this is the movie for you. So I'm going to send you to the trailer, and then I'm going to send you to the movies. The Omega Man, made in 1971.
There is no phone ringing, damn it!
The last man on Earth lives in a fortress.
What day is it anyway? Monday? The hell it is. It's Sunday. Sunday I always dress for dinner. Discovered check. How does that grab you, Caesar?
The last man on Earth always carries an automatic weapon. The last man on Earth is hunting. Because the last man on Earth is not alone.
Right up against the wall, you mother. Don't turn, just stand. When I want you to turn, I'll turn you on or off, up or around, I'll turn you. Now cool it. Now put your hands out. Out. Way out. About shoulder high. I like to come crucify you, baby. You got any more questions, fathead?
My name is Robert.
Your name's Mud.
God, I forgot to keep the fuel up in the generator. They'll be into the garage.
Is this not the place where all the dead were burned?
Find the switches! Get those lights off! Gone!
30 with Tony Thursdays, 3 Eastern on Twitter.
Well, thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed the classic movie review of The Omega Man, and I hope you enjoyed the Boss music. Anyway, this is my week to offend people, so I'm just going to keep on doing as I've been doing. I've got a cannibal joke for you. 2 cannibals are sitting in the jungle, and one cannibal says, you know, I'm a little bit sluggish, and I really don't understand why. The other one turns to him and says, I know why you're sluggish. You've been eating too many government bureaucrats. If you don't think that's funny, I can't help you. It's Tony D'Angelo here at 30 with Tony. Thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us. See me, Lee Elsey Show, 7 a.m. Tuesdays, 94.9 News and Stimulating Talk, Talk Red Media, and on 30 with Tony. Thank you so much. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend. Be safe, and we'll see you next week for another edition of 30 with Tony.